So, Lowrider family, welcome back to another episode with Lolos and more. And today is the final day of working on this Caddy, and we're going to install the front cylinders. This is the easy part, but unfortunately on this car I had to do it last because the springs that I'm putting in the car are pre-cut. Well, they're shorter stacks, and the front's gonna sit lower than what it is right now, stock height. Because once I take out these springs, they're gonna be about double the size of those springs over there. And then if I did the cylinders and I didn't do the trunk first, like I have done about wiring and plumbing, then I wouldn't be able to get it down the driveway. The driveway is pretty steep. The video, can't really tell in the video, but it's pretty steep. I wouldn't be able to get this out of here. So yeah, last day of the Caddy. You guys are gonna see it. I know for sure I'm gonna see it again in the next few months, 5 months I'm guessing, to install the extended arms that I'm building for this car. The reason why I didn't include it to be done before I finish the car was because I have other people's arms that they want me to do. I have, I think, 3 or 4 sets right now. And for me, I think it's better I just do them all at the same time. And then that way I can show you guys how to do them. So to do the front, we're going to jack up the car, take the wheels off. Let's see. But yeah, it's pretty simple. Let's see, I got my light in here. Can't really tell that well. But right, see that the shock mount right there, that right there in the middle of the hole. That's where I'm gonna drill my hole. But as you guys remember, when you're drilling the hole, you don't want to drill where the pre-existing hole is for the shock. You want to come out about a quarter to a third of an inch out to the side of the car this way, not just straight in, because you want those cylinders to sit straight. So but yeah, jack up the car, take the wheels off, and then I'll show you what's next to do on the Caddy. So be right back. Alright, I got the car on jack stands. I'm using 4 jack stands and then the jack itself to help support the car up. I do have another jack that I'm going to use for it to help me for when I need to lower and higher the control arms, and I'll show you guys here in a little bit of what I mean. So, got the wheels off. So what's next? What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take off the brake caliper right here. You don't have to take off the whole assembly. Just take off this piece right here, because your brakes on your wheels are like two different pieces. You got this piece right here, and then the main assembly bracket, the caliper bracket right here. You got that. So what I'm only gonna do is just detach this piece, the caliper itself, not the bracket. I'm gonna take that off, and then the next thing that I'm gonna work on taking off, I'm gonna go ahead and loosen up those 2 bolts right here, that one and that one, that loosens up the bottom of the shock. And then I'm gonna loosen up the bottom of the top of the shock. That nut right there, right here. There's that one nut that loosens up the shock. And most of the time, you can pretty much pull the shock out from the bottom. Just pull it straight out. So you can do that. And then what I'm gonna do next after that is I'm gonna loosen up the sway bar on both ends, one right after the other, right here. Bring the light over. Yeah, right here. I'm gonna loosen up this long bolt right here. This is the sway bar right here. The sway bar is in the vehicles to help with sway. So if you do a sharp right turn, a sharp right turn, you can go that way, right? The car is gonna wanna, the right side is gonna wanna lift and sway to the left. And what these sway bars are, it prevents it from doing that a lot. So it'll just barely do it, versus if you didn't have it, it'll do it a lot. That's what the sway bars are in there for. For a lot of you, you can either you can take that off completely, or you can put it back in. It's totally up to you. There's no right or wrong. Some dudes do leave them in there. It's up to you. My truck still has it in there. I believe I'm going to take it off because I really don't need it. But to take it off completely, take it off the A-arm right here, this long bolt and that nut, loosen that up, and then it has these two clamps right here. That one right here, it takes two nuts to take it off, and then there's one on the other side right there. Take it off on the other end on the bottom control arm, just like this one right here, and it completely comes out, and you don't have to put it back in. It's totally up to you. A lot of lowrider homies that just cruiser cars do go ahead and put those back in there. But one other thing with the hydraulics, it is gonna really wear that sway bar. It's gonna really wear it out, because see, for example, if I was to put the jack right here underneath this control arm, and I jack it up, it's also, the sway bar is gonna react and it's gonna make that other side go up as well. So you guys get the point. If I raise this side up or down, and the other side, so okay, say since it is a side to side car, say I drop this side down, the other side's still up. That's gonna really wear this sway bar out, and it's gonna kind of make it useless, you can say. You can still leave it in there. It won't break. They're pretty durable. So it's all up to you. Want to leave them or not? But I'm gonna leave it on the car. But I do need to disconnect it from the control arms on both sides, so I can drop this A-arm to get that stock spring out. So let me do those three things: the sway bar, brake caliper, and unmounting the shock from the top and the bottom. And I'll be right back, and I'll show you guys the rest of the teardown. Okay, well, I'm gonna go ahead and maybe just leave the sway bar on, see how far I can get the bottom A-arm down, see how far it'll go down. But we'll have to release these two nuts on both sides, the ones that are where the ball joint is at. I'll have to release those two, and then I'll pop both of them down and see how far the sway bar will let these arms drop. Hopefully enough for me to stick the springs in, but we'll see. But if you guys haven't seen videos before from the Jimmy, the way I break the ball joints is I use this fork right here, and then I use a big not a big hammer, but I use like a single sledge right there. I hit the fork with it, hit it, and it'll break it. This is for the old ball joints. What I do recommend you guys get is the ball joint, what's it called? The ball joint, I don't know. You guys, there's a ball joint tool out there that helps separate these two right here without ruining the boot of the ball joint. Because if you ruin the boot, make a hole in it, debris start getting in it, the grease starts coming out, and then this ball joint will go bad. But this is old, we no longer need it, so I'm going to just use the fork with it. So I got the caliper off, the shock is out right there. I'm going to do the same thing to both sides real quick and see how far the sway bar lets me go down, because it's being a real bitch to come off. That nut and bolt it's always a pain. But what I did for the calipers, I got a piece of metal, bend it in two different places, and it holds up weight. You don't want to just let the calipers hang, because you will ruin this hose right here, and you don't want that to happen. So let me break that side, and the other side, and let's see how far these bottoms go. Be right back. Alright, so I got the spring out. I did have to take off the bolt that's connected to the sway arm on both sides. It didn't let me go down enough. So just to give you guys a heads up, I haven't taken apart the front end of a Caddy yet with the stock spring still in it, you know, stock suspension. I'm gonna tell you guys right now, it's very damn dangerous. Even that I had the car all the way up, all I did was give it a tap on the spindle right here, and it immediately dropped and the spring literally shot out. So be careful when you guys are removing the springs on your Caddy. But all the other cars that I've ever dealt with, I've never had a problem, never. But this one was kind of sketchy, kind of dangerous, so watch out for that on them Caddies. The springs will shoot out, yeah. So when I was loosening this bolt right here, it snapped. So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna go get a new bolt. I'm gonna go get 2 new bolts because they're kind of rusty. It's gonna be kind of hard to tighten them. I'm gonna get 2 of those. I'm gonna go get some oil for the pumps. I'm gonna go get what's it called? Some bolts to screw to mount the cups to the cylinders themselves. I'm gonna go get that, and then the oil that I use, I want to say it's 1030 or 530 Pennzoil oil. So that's what I use on all my setups. I've never had an issue with it. So I'm gonna go to the store real quick, pick all that up, and I'll be back in just a second. Okay, I'm back from the store. I got the oil that I need. It's over here. I got the nuts and bolts that I need right here. So next step is, now that I got both sides taken apart completely, so what's next is I'm gonna take off these A-arms. I'm gonna take off both A-arms, and what I'm gonna do is see, the homeboy brought me two different A-arms. This side he hasn't swapped out, but the other side he has swapped out, so it's a new A-arm with new ball joints and bushings. I'm gonna take both of them out and then I'm gonna cut them out. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come off to the side a little bit on both sides, and then I'll cut from this little slit right here. I'm gonna cut straight across, and I'm gonna make a clean cut with the angle grinder with a flat cutting disc. Makes a clean cut, because I recommend doing it that way, not using a plasma cutter or something, because let me see. Someone use a torch and look how ugly that thing is. This A-arm was on the on that green Regal that I worked on. He put some new chrome A-arms on, about 2-inch extension, 2.5, and these are the ones he had in the car that person built for him. Use a torch, but looks hella clean with an angle grinder with a cutting disc. So let me take those A-arms off on both sides, and I'm gonna make the cuts, and I'll show you when I come back. Okay, it took a while. It shouldn't have, but it did. So on the passenger side, completely taken care of. The upper A-arm, the upper control arm is out completely. All I have to do on it, on the car now, is cut the A-arms to where, just cut them so there's enough room for the cylinder, so it doesn't slap the cylinder. and make the holes for the cylinders to go through the frame. Right there, I'm gonna go through that hole right there. But as you guys remember, I'm not gonna just drill straight in. I'm gonna come off about 1/4 to 1/3 of an inch, and drill a pilot hole, and then get the hole saw and go through. I think the hole saw size is 2 inch and 1/8 or something like that. But when I find it, I'll let you guys know. But what I was saying was, it shouldn't have taken this long to take it apart, because now it's night. Oh man. Well, on the driver's side, what I usually do when the control arms are really close to the steering shafts, I'll usually take the steering shaft out. Well, on the Cadillac, it's seized on there. I heated it up and everything, it would not come out. The stud right here, this stud, it's stuck in the frame for the control arm. It won't come out. The other side, for some reason, they just fell right out. But as you guys can see, I took out the stud on this side because I could not get this shaft out. No matter what I did, it would not come out. It's seized on there. I undid there's a bolt in there, and then there's a bolt underneath this plastic case right here. It will not come out. So it took me a while to get this stud out. I did all I could. I used 2 different impacts, electric and air. I used the breaker bar. Nothing would work. I started getting pissed. So I started, like taking breaks, just being frustrated. And then I thought, well, what happens? Let's see if it helps if I heat up the metal. So I went ahead, heated up the metal, heated up the ears right here, this metal piece. This is where the stud goes through. I heated it up. I put the impact back on it. It wasn't budging, so I did it again. I grabbed the breaker bar, and then it broke loose, and then I was able to pop it through and get the upper arm out. I should have just thought of the heat on this first, but whatever. Now here comes the easy part, and from here on out it should be pretty quick to finish up the car. It's kind of getting late in this neighborhood. Hates noise, so I'm gonna cut out the A-arms first because that's the loudest, and then I'm gonna do the holes. So so you have an idea. I think I already told you guys. So you have an idea. I'm gonna come out from the top of the oval down at an angle, and then down at an angle, straight over, up at an angle, and again up at an angle, coming up again with the oval. And that's how I'm gonna leave it, because he wants me to build him some arms, some extended AM. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna cut those. Right before I cut the holes, I'll let you guys know what size I use. So I'll be right back. Okay, I got both A-arms cut out. That right there, and this one. So I already did the pilot holes for cutting out the holes for the cylinders. You see right there, that little hole? That's as far as you want to get from that hole. That's pretty much it. So I'm gonna go ahead, take the hole saw right here and drill it out. I'm using the size that I'm using is a 2 1/8. You can get away with using a 2 inch, but this I have a 2 1/8, which is okay. So let me go ahead and cut these holes real quick, and I'll show you guys what's next. But I did when I was mentioning about heating up the metal so I can expand it to take out that bolt right there, so I can get this A-arm out, because for some reason the steering shaft didn't want to come out. I use this little plumbing torch right here. It's MAP gas. MAP gas burns hotter than propane. that comes in this size. It's map gas. I only had to hit it with a flame for maybe 2 minutes or less on that piece of metal on the frame over there. So that's it. Remember you guys when I was saying that these springs were kind of dangerous popping out? Well, this is the reason why. See, this size right here is the usual size that you see in the G bodies or S10s and Blazers and stuff. Well, this is what came out of the Caddy. These two long ones. Yeah, they were kind of dangerous. So let me cut these holes real quick, and I'll show you from here on out. It's all easy. Putting it back together is the easy part, but we'll be right back. Alright, I got the hole cut out. I got the hole cut out right there. I got them on both sides. Now it's time to put everything in, slide in the cylinder, slide in the springs, put it back together. And from here, from this point, in reality, this car should be on the ground in about 30 minutes or less, give or take. Because I do have brand new bolts that I'm putting on the sway bars, and that makes it very easy to just tighten those up, and that's it. So I got the cylinders and springs ready here, and this is how it's set up in the car. You put your donut right here. Your donut is what helps keep your cylinder in place right here. So donuts are mainly used up front. You can use them for the rear if you like. That's totally up to you. But mainly used in the front. And these are really thick. So you'll slide this over the cylinder from the top, and it'll sit on top of the big hold, big nut, you can say. And then after that, you put your deep cup. You use a nut washer and a lock wash. In this case, the bolt was slightly long, so I had to put 2 washers instead of 1, and it worked perfect. And to let you guys know, I put blue thread locker on here, so it stays put, and same on the bolt, so it stays put, so it doesn't move. Believe it or not, that the nut on the cylinder will spin and eventually come off if you don't put some thread locker on there. Same with the bolt, it'll spin and it'll pop off. I don't know how or why, but it has happened, but it doesn't happen when you use the thread locker. Make sure it's not the stuff that says it'll hold it there forever, because that shit will pretty much weld itself together. So make sure it's light use, and some that will come right off when you're ready to take it off again. Alright, so what I'm going to do first is mount the A-arms once again, mount them on the car, and then we're going to slip the cylinders through. So let me mount the A-arms back on the car, and we'll be right back as soon as we're ready to slip in the cylinders. Alright, I got both A-arms on both sides, ready to go, ready to install the cylinders. So go ahead and do this side first. As you guys can see, I got the donut right there, and then the cup mounted to the cylinder. So I'm gonna go ahead and slip this in just the way this is because of the fitting. Slide it in just like that through the hole, and then I'll put the spring right after it. I would put you guys on the tripod, but my kids broke my tripod yesterday, and I will be picking up one here in a day or two, a better one. So, because the one I had was just like an 8-inch, 10-inch tall one, but this one's like 50 inch. But let me put the springs in and the cylinders on both sides, and we'll be right back. And we're pretty much going to do everything in reverse, putting everything back together. Be right back. Alright, well, as you can see, the car is sitting outside, which means that I got the cylinders in, which is correct. but I ran into an issue. I guess on the Caddies, on these 77 Coupe de Villes, I think it's a 77. Yeah. Well, on the fender, right where the cylinder sits straight, apparently I need to cut a chunk out of it. But right now, where the cylinder is sitting, it's sitting in between the metal and the plastic fenders. It has a plastic fender that you see in here, then it has a metal fender in the engine bay. Can't really see. Let's see. See, I got the cylinder in there, so it's sitting straight. As you guys can see, it's sitting in between the plastic and the metal fender, which isn't bad. It's not hurting anything. It's just sitting in between them. It's not bending anything, but I will need to cut the metal fender, which is something I wasn't expecting to do. And another thing that happened is that apparently I didn't cut the A-arms enough, so I need to cut those again even more, which sucks. But that's what I need to do to finish off the front end completely. Right now it's pretty much done. I just need to do some more cutting, which I kind of hate doing, but oh well, life goes on. So but yeah, what I'm gonna do tomorrow is to correct that stuff, and then I'm gonna run the hydraulic lines from the front to the rear to the trunk. So I already tested the rear. The rear does not leak, as you guys can see in these pictures right here. I was trying to break in the springs, but as you guys can see now, it's not even, the rear springs are not breaking in. So we'll see you tomorrow. It got too late for me to do any more cutting around here. Alright, see you in the morning. Okay, it's the next morning. Working on the Caddy. I'm almost done. I started working on that cable over there for the ground, for the batteries, but the quick disconnect that I have apparently is just slightly too small, and I stripped the brass connector part of it. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna give them the one that's in my truck, and I'll just get a new one. Right now I'm not really using my truck, so I'll take that off on my truck, put it on that wire, put it in here, because that wire is ready to go. I got the copper connectors, the ring terminals already crimped on there, so all I gotta do is put the quick disconnect, run it through, connect it to the ground, and that's it. It's done. I am gonna make the hold downs real quick, which is that super simple, so I don't think I'm gonna show the process of that, but yeah. But to what I was saying yesterday, see the cylinder right here? That's the cylinder, and it's in between the metal fender and the plastic fender, the inner and the outer fender. Right now it's in between them. It's not bending anything, as you guys can see. Like, it swoops up here, which is pretty cool. So it's not like bending anything. I'm gonna go ahead and make the cuts. As you see this right here, I made this with my fingers to give me an estimate to where I need to cut. And then I'm gonna run the hose down there in the middle of the frame, going through there. So I'm gonna do that real quick. I want to make these cuts, and then I also need to cut the arms a little bit. As you can see, it's not touching right now, but the thing is, these springs are gonna break in. These little springs, they're going to break in, and then this arm will hit the cylinder down the road, and then it'll start gouging the cylinder, and I don't want that. So yeah, let me go ahead make the cuts on the fender right there, so as you guys can see. I'm gonna make the cut on the metal fender. I'm gonna leave the plastic one alone. Make the cuts on the A-arms real quick, take the wheels off. And since it was a quick night, I need to also put a carter pin right there in the ball joint, and then reconnect the sway bars with the new nuts and bolts that I got for it. So, but yeah, as you guys can see, that's the A-arm right here in the frame. And these are the, let's see, the short stacks that you can get offline. I think these are the 3-ton or 2-ton. That's what he wanted to get. So and they were already pre-cut, so when they break in, when this guy lowers the car down the road, it's gonna pretty much be touching the frame, and that it's gonna be touching. But the bump stop is still, I left the bump stop on. So yeah, well, let me make those cuts real quick, and we'll be right back. Alright, so I made my extra cuts. I got the wheels back on. Made the extra cut on the A-arm. Made the cuts on the inner fender wells right there. So I did both sides, so that's ready to go. I just need to remount these braces real quick. But I'm gonna start running the lines, and that's super simple. I recommend running it on the frame on both sides. When you're running the far side, don't cross it until you get to the back to where it's safe, or run both lines on the frame to the back and drill a hole in the trunk from the outside in or the inside out, depending on how you want to do it. And then do the same on the other side. Run on the frame, make another hole for the other side hose from the inside or outside of the trunk, and then hook it up to the pump. But that's pretty simple. Zip ties are your best friend when running the lines. So I'm gonna run both lines real quick. That's super easy. I don't think I gotta explain anything. But keep it on the frame. Don't run it under the belly, close to the exhaust, close to the transmission. Don't run it close to the dry shaft. So I'm just running it on the frame all the way to the rear, to the axle, and then I'm gonna drill holes into the trunk to run them inside. Alright, be right back. Okay, so I ran both hoses from the front to the rear. Ran them along the frame. On this Caddy, more up there, you see that seam right there? We'll see, not that seam, but those zip ties. From those zip ties, I run it from the inside of the frame to where it becomes boxed, and then it comes back out at a hole. I'll show you guys in a second. From there, it's kind of exposed on the other side of this frame. And this is how I ran both. No, only this side. This how I ran this side. The hose comes up above the bridge, up and over, down the bridge, and then I made a hole. Can't tell. I think you can tell right there. See, made a hole to go through the trunk, and there it is. And what I was trying to say. Okay, see, it comes out of the frame where I had it. It comes out and into the engine bay, up and into the engine bay, and into the cylinder. So that's pretty much it. The other side was a little bit more simpler, easy run, but this side, it has like a big resonator. I think it's a resonator or the catalytic converter, one of the two, but it's really, really big. So I couldn't really run it against the frame. I had to run it inside the frame, and then it comes back out of the frame. So it comes into the trunk, I know it's a mess, but I'm trying to clean it up right now. Comes into the hole right there, up and around. Then I had to get an extension hose, up and around into the pump. Same hole over there too. So, what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna take out the springs, the rear springs, so that the car sits pretty level. Unfortunately, these Cadillacs, the Coutavilles, it cannot go any lower. This fender cannot go any lower than right here. So I only got like about 2 inches to play with. So I'm gonna take off one coil. Hopefully that's enough. The reason why I can't go any lower is because the fender will start hitting the wheel, the rim, or the tire. So, and that's no good. I think the same thing goes for the Fleetwoods in the 80s. No, not the 90s. The 90s they tuck in perfectly, but in the 80s, I'm pretty sure they won't tuck either. You have to get shorter axles. You can make your own shortened axles, or you can swap them out with some crap. I forgot what axles they were. I want to say Toyota ones. No, is it? I don't remember. I know there was an axle that you can just... Oh, Caprice. I think it's a Caprice. You can slap them on the Caddies. You just have to do some minor modifications, and it'll fit. But oh well. We'll discuss that when we come into that situation later on a different build or something. If somebody wants me to try and do it for them. But I don't know if I want to take on that task since I don't have my own garage. This is my parents' place. And no, I don't live with my parents. So let me cut the springs, clean the trunk out, and then after that I'm gonna make the hold downs real quick, and they're super simple, and then I'm ready to install the subs back in here. So let me knock the springs and cleaning out the trunk, and we'll be right back. Alright, I got it all in. I went ahead, I cut the springs in the rear, so now it sits nice where we want it to be. It can't go any lower than that, or else the fender's gonna ruin the tires and the rims. So it sits pretty low now for this Cadillac. As you guys can tell, I'm using my jumper cable still as a quick and disconnect. So what I'm gonna do right now, I'm gonna test the car for the first time. I haven't tested it yet. I've tested the back, but not the front. I filled up the pumps completely with oil. So now it's time to test it. If it tests out good and I don't need to do any rewiring or swap things out because it's not in the right place, hopefully I don't have to do that. But I'm gonna test it. If it works, I'm gonna go wash it, and then I'm gonna try and see if I can do some shoots of me, I guess, washing it. Not cinematics, but to do cinematics I need somebody to move the camera for me, but that's not gonna happen. But yeah, it's all wired in. I got the subs back in place, got the amp mounted to the back of it. I touched up the trunk that I needed to paint. I need to put zip ties once again on these wires so it tucks a little bit better like the front. So let's test it out. And after I wash the car, I need to go home, grab my disconnect from my lowrider and put it on the wire that I already have made for this. But here, I'll put you guys right here and see what's up. Well, what do you guys think? It did side to side, just like the way it's supposed to. So, what I'm gonna do right now, I'm gonna go wash this big boat. Yeah. I already did the hold downs. I'm just letting them dry. So that's it for that. I'm gonna just barely raise this and just drive it like that. I don't want to play with the hydros. It's not my car. So that's it. That's how you pretty much build a lowrider. But let me go wash this, grab the quick disconnect from my ride, and this thing's done. Be right back. Those are more. Car is leaving. Car is done. Fully wired, fully plumbed, bled the lines. I washed it before it came out. And now it's about to leave, go back home. And off to the next one. There it goes. Customer happy. Hitting switches. His first car on switches. See? Yep. Yeah, you too. There he goes. Alright. Well, that's it for this video. Hopefully you guys liked the content on that Caddy. So the next one, as you guys know, is a Monte Carlo. So there you go. Hope you guys liked it. If you guys liked the video, let me know. If you guys like the series of the Caddy, give it a good thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. Alright, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.